Anyone who cannot cope with mathematics is not fully human. At best, he is a tolerable subhuman who has learned to wear shoes, bathe, and not make messes in the house. Robert Heinlein. You gotta love it, right? Where's our intro? It's been so long.
From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where I'll bet you didn't know that screeched is the longest one-syllable word in the English language. And I'm sure there's a great Saved by the Bell coprophilia joke in there somewhere, but that's clearly above my pay grade to make. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. So pleased you could join us. I am your ruggedly handsome, pleasantly pithy correspondent, and here is your Decline of Western Civilization news roundup for the work week ending Friday, 15 March 2024. Dateline? Hell, I'm not sure. Let's say Dateline Mecca. The infamous former Black Lives Matter activist Shaun King, or as we lovingly know him on the Captain Curmudgeon program, Rachel Dickenballs, whose previous claim to fame was being such a good cosplayer that he managed to convince lots of dumb people that he really was a black dude, announced this week that he is branching out into a whole new and decidedly more hazardous form of cosplaying by converting to Islam. And more on that in a moment. But first, a few words on Mr. King's former profession, because it's a fascinating life trajectory that one has chosen for oneself, a very intriguing career path, when you find yourself in a position where the only way you can restore your professional credibility is by claiming that your mom cheated on your dad with a very, very light-skinned black man, and that's your real daddy, and she never told you about any of this until the day you got busted for being a white dude. What y'all talking about? I ain't no cracker, pecker wood motherfucker! I mean, what a serendipitous series of events that is, am I right? And hey, now that the whole BLM grifter empire has collapsed in on itself like a dying star, it only stands to reason that Mr. King should try to continue his career as a cultural parasite by latching on to whatever current day thing is most fashionable on the fringes of the radical left lunatic fringe, which in this case is being a Jew-hating Muslim. I just wonder if he fully appreciates what's going to happen in a few years when he gets bored of the whole Islam thing and tries to pack it in, because I've heard from a friend of a friend that Muslims aren't the biggest fans of apostasy. So your tombstone might well say, "Here lies Sean King, a white dude who got lovingly thrown off a building," and that's all I'm saying. Dateline, Rockford, Illinois, Tuesday, 12 March. Congressman and child grooming sex pervert Eric Sorensen, and do I need to say he's a Democrat, or is that just mutually understood, came under fire this week for actively engaging in the organization of drag queen shows for small children. Libs of TikTok reported earlier this week that Representative Sorensen, who also enjoys posting pictures of himself wearing women's clothes, and once sat on the board of an organization that sought to introduce gay pornography books into elementary school classrooms, has devoted much of his time in recent months to the organizing and promotion of events where parents bring their small children and lovingly submit them to being rubbed up on by adult male sex perverts in dresses for the better part of an afternoon. And why does he do it? Because, goddammit, that is how we fight bigotry and extremism. From a February 2023 tweet, quote, "Republicans are feverishly trying to ban drag shows in Kentucky instead of making the schools, parks, and homes safer from gun violence. We have to fight this extremism," end quote. And obviously the way you fight this extremism is by having your 7-year-old stick dollar bills in the thong of a big hairy dude with fake tits. It's just basic common sense. But I'm glad Mr. Sorensen brought up the subject of public works, because isn't that the sort of thing a congressman is supposed to help out his constituents with in a normal world? I'm guessing his office gets lots of calls from real people with real problems that they could use real help with, and I'm guessing there has never been one single phone call saying, "You know, Congressman, I find it just intolerable that we don't have more drag queen shows for kids. If I have reached this judgment in error, then the congressman knows where to find me, and he is more than welcome to come on this program anytime and defend his record at any time of his own choosing." Dateline, Washington, Wednesday, 13 March. In a bit of news that shattered the most fervent hopes of self-delusional leftists across the fruited plain, Rasmussen reported this week that in a hypothetical head-to-head contest, potential Democrat Party saviors Gavin Newsom and Michelle Obama would lose to Donald Trump even more badly than President and semi-animated cadaver Joe Biden is on track to lose to Donald Trump. In a poll of 912 likely voters taken on 5 and 6 March, Trump leads Biden by 8 points, misses Obama by 9 points, and Gavin the Gravel Gargler by an astounding 17 points. And you folks don't need me to tell you what a tough spot the Dems are in right now. Biden is the worst president in history. Everybody knows he's the worst president in history. They would love to replace him at the top of the ticket, but the old bastard refuses to go away, and nobody can muster the courage to shove him out the door. Which brings us to the other tough spot that they are in, and her name is the California Cackler. Now, it takes a lot of very hard work to be 5 points less popular than the worst president in history, but by God, she has managed to pull it off. And each time they try to rehabilitate her public images, her numbers just go down all that much more, which is to say, sorry guys, but this is the ticket you're stuck with. You could combine the approval ratings of your president and your vice president and not even get to 70%. Oh, and your convention's in Chicago, and you are already in very deep trouble with the Hamasnik wing of the party because you don't love terrorism enough. So I'm sure there won't be any violent protests at the convention that make 1968 look like goddamn Woodstock by comparison. So best of luck, guys. We're all pulling for you. Dateline, Washington, Thursday, 14 March. In one of the most shocking, indefensible, wildly inappropriate speeches ever given by a U.S. elected official, Senate Majority Leader crying Chuck Schumer demanded new elections in Israel this week and the ouster of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And wait, aren't you the same guys who are always telling us that foreign interference in democratic elections is the most dastardly, evil, insidious thing in the whole wide world? So I would be curious to know how you square that in your own minds when you go to the floor of the Senate and demand regime change in the government of a Democratic ally. But let's call things what they are. We know this wasn't Crying Chuck's idea. We know this was the Biden administration floating a trial balloon that they didn't have the balls to float for themselves. So they sent Crying Chuck out there to do it for them. Did they consider the most obvious question that would create? Namely, what the hell business is it of a U.S. senator what another country's leaders vote for their leaders? No, they clearly didn't, because these are not the smartest people in the world. These are not the sharpest tools in the drawer in the shed. They are not the most politically astute people who ever lived. The intellectual rot in this administration starts from the top, in the big broad chasm of cobweb nothingness that sits between Joe Biden's ears, and it goes all the way down. It was stupid to ever float this trial balloon, as evidenced by the fact that Schumer was roundly and quite correctly criticized by a wide range of voices on both the right and the left. As for Biden, he was heard to say, "Fuck it, I'm going to bed." Dateline Atlanta, Friday, 15 March. Fulton County Judge Cucky McCuckington ruled this week that even after her incredible tour de force of improper behavior and bad conduct, Fani Willis can remain on the Donald Trump case as long as she fires her former boy toy, and frequent vacation partner, Mr. Nathan Wade, Esquire, attorney at law. What the hell is wrong with Judge McCuckington? Well, evidently he is a spineless douchebag who is terrified of being called a racist. So when Fanny went into that black church the other week and gave that big old sermon about how she is being persecuted by terrible, awful racists, there was a reason she did that. And it would seem the gambit had exactly the desired effect. Ladies and gentlemen, I've watched a whole lot of trials and hearings over the years, as we all have. And have I ever seen a witness act more improperly toward a judge in a court than Fani Willis did when she was on the stand and faced no recrimination or consequence for it at all? No, I have not. And setting aside the fact that this is all a fake-ass kangaroo court political prosecution, if Fanny's conduct isn't sufficient for a prosecutor to be thrown off a case, what the hell would sufficient look like? Does it have to be 3,000 phone calls and not just 2,000? Maybe 7 luxury vacations and not just 6? Lady Curmudgeon and I have been married for 30.5 years. I guarantee you we have never talked to each other on the phone 2,000 times, and we have been on a grand total of 1 cruise. So, by the standards laid out by Judge McCuckington, my wife and I do not have an intimate relationship. Well done, Your Honor. Well done indeed. And that is your Decline of Western Civilization news roundup for the week that was. May it rest in peace. And with that, I toss it over to my lovely and distinguished co-host, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Tonight, we are going to discuss a handful of topics. One, the movie Damsel. I've watched it twice. I'm not a fan, but it could have been great. I think some editing could fix that thing right up. Possibly an entire recasting, but we're getting to that. CGI has possibly taken a dump in the trash. We're going to discuss that concept. Captain Curmudgeon has a list of things he wants to go over, so we're going to jump right into all of that silliness starting and double check me on this pronunciation. Audie Murphy? Is that right?
That's how you say it.
Magnificent. Now, it always does it wrong, don't it? So
Audie L. Murphy of Kingston, Texas, USA, to be specific.
Right.
Do you think there's anybody in our audience who doesn't know the first thing about Audie Murphy?
Scotty Waddles over there is completely clueless, never heard the man's name, doesn't even realize he's an actor that's been over like 200 movies. How many movies he did?
Well, all right, then let's start from the beginning. Audie Murphy is the most decorated combat infantryman in the history of these here United States of America. And on the day he finished his combat career, the day of his Medal of Honor action, by which time he had won every decoration for valor that was then awarded by the U.S. Armed Forces, he was still 7 months removed from his 20th birthday. And if you want to know how improbable it was for this particular guy to become the greatest soldier in American history, I want you to think back to Skinny Steve Rogers in the first Captain America movie. Do you remember Skinny Steve Rogers in the first Captain America movie? The guy who was 5'0" 100 and nothing. He went from recruiting station to station to station, and nobody would let him sign up and serve because they said, "Son, you're just too scrawny and small and sickly. We can't do this to you. You're not going to be any good for this army. Just go do something else." He was rejected when he tried to enlist in the Army and the Navy and the Marine Corps. He finally got his daughter to falsely sign an affidavit claiming that he was 1 year older than he really was, and for some reason the Army decided, "Okay, son, you're persistent. We will let you enlist." On the date of his enlistment, he was listed as 5'5", 112 pounds. He was the smallest, weakest, sickliest man in his platoon right up until the day he's all, And let's throw a question out there right now, just for the hell of it. How do you determine a man who's going to be valorous and brave in combat? It is such a fickle thing, isn't it? Because because go ahead.
I think that maybe the determination to get in was part of a red flag. I mean, first of all, he's committing fraud, felonious fraud.
Yep.
Pretending that he's of age to be able to enter into a contract with the United States government, which shouldn't fly at all on its surface. He then perpetrates
because all he wants is the chance to pick up a rifle and defend his country.
Are you sure this wasn't some of that evil white racism we hear about? I mean, not to besmirch a man's, lovely character and all, but
I mean, drill instructors will tell you this too. There is no way to predict which guy in the company is going to be the brave, kick-ass warrior, because sometimes the guy you think is the bravest, toughest, most macho guy in the company will be the first one to freeze up and curl into a ball of jello when he gets into combat, and the guy who's the weakest and sickliest might wind up being the greatest soldier in history, and that is exactly what happened here. And Skinny Steve Rogers basically became Captain America without any magic super soldier steroid juice. That is what happened in the story of Audie Murphy, and I think people today don't have a very good understanding of just how famous this guy used to be, because first, he becomes the most decorated combat infantryman in the history of the United States. And then he goes and has a screen test, and it's figured out that he's a pretty good actor. And for the next 20 years, from 1950 right up until his death, he is one of the biggest Western movie stars in Hollywood during a period when the Western pretty much ruled everything. He was as a movie star, he was like second tier, right below John Wayne and Gary Cooper and Jimmy Stewart. That's how popular and well regarded this guy was just as an actor. In addition to being a freaking hero who has more weight in medals than his body weighs.
But also, he was kind of renowned for taking roles, just pretty much anything thrown at him. Usually when you're trying to get the role of a big actor, you're trying to cast a particular name. He's not the type of person who would stand on his reputation. He was just as likely to show up in a high school production of Oklahoma because some kid wrote him a letter as he was to show up on freaking Broadway,
And also a great service that he performed to the public after his military career was to break down the stigma about what we now call PTSD, what they used to call shell shock or battle fatigue, because there used to be a widely held perception that guys who got PTSD, they got it because they were morally defective somehow or lacking in courage. But, when a guy like Audie Murphy says, "I'm the most decorated soldier in the history of the country, and I have fucking nightmares every night. I sleep with a gun under my pillow. I got a lot of issues from the experiences I went through, and nobody should be ashamed of it, and you should go and get help." And it was really incredibly helpful to a lot of people that a guy like that with his reputation was willing to come out and say that, because it broke down that entire stigma. And it only took one guy to do it of that stature. And I think a lot of guys today owe him a debt that they don't even realize they owe.
but that stature, man, I mean, you're talking about, like I said, he was in at least 144 movies or some crap like that. He worked absolutely indefatigably to uh promote basically general wholesome Americanness.
Yep.
Everyone who ever encountered the man could only speak on how excellent a specimen of the human condition he was, right? And
And
yet
he passed
this man
and he
had night
passed he sorry. You go first.
this man had nightmares and slept with a pistol under his pillow, and it made him feel better to do so.
Yep. Yeah, and his acting commitments were, in addition to being a horse breeder up north here in Riverside County, there's a housing development called Audie Murphy Ranch where they built a bunch of single family houses on what used to be his property that he raised his horses on, and he raced them down here in Del Mar. So he was quite the local celebrity around the area where I live, in addition to being a great national hero. And if he had just lived out his natural lifespan, his legend would have grown so much larger. Because can you imagine if Audie Murphy had still been alive during the 80s? How many of the 80s war movies he would have popped up in, cameoing as a general or something like that?
Just standing over there in the corner with a mop or whatever. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh, wow. Right? I hadn't even thought about
And
that.
it's such an incredible shame that he died when he did and how he did. It's so incredibly stupid. A man who has cheated death so many times and in so many ways, and then he winds up getting killed because some idiot pilot tries to fly VFR in instrument conditions when he's not rated for it, and fucking right into the side of a mountain, and there goes the greatest war hero in history.
Sorry, I'm responding to chat
Oh, you're fine.
because I'm an idiot.
And this movie we're looking at right now, To Hell and Back, which was his big biopic that he starred in as himself, and he was very resistant for a long time.
We got to get a grip on that. We need to chew on that fact right there for a second by itself. Okay. This man went through the events of World War II, attained more medals than your walking body weight, came home, wrote a book about it that was so good that the people that read the book were like, damn, let's make that a movie. Who are we going to get to play it? Turns out Audie Murphy's an actor, so they get him to play himself in his own movie, thereby triggering his own PTSD and leaving him basically out in the cold for dealing with that trash. And so he becomes an advocate for virtually every possible charity in the history of the world. He's just a generally good guy.
Yep, a generally good guy. And it took them about 7 or 8 years to talk them into portraying himself on screen. That's how resistant he was to doing it. So this picture doesn't get made until 1955 when he's coming up on 30 years old, which makes the series when he's the scenes where he's portraying his teenage self a little bit much. It's that problem biopics often run into when you have your lead actor who's twice the age of the age he's portraying when he's an adolescent. But that's okay. And also, the thing we need to talk about with this guy is that when you talk about coming from absolutely nothing, this is as big a nothing as you can possibly come from. This guy is born a sharecropper's son in 1925. His son, I mean, his dad dies when he's very young. I think his mom dies before he's 16 or 17. And this family is experiencing poverty on a level that really nobody alive in this country today can understand, really, because it's the kind of poverty where you've got 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, and none of them are going to eat tonight unless you go out and shoot a varmint for dinner and skin it and clean it and gut it and bring it home so mother can fix it for dinner. And that is the only way your family eats. And so, when he was in boot camp, the only exceptional thing about him was that he was a really good shot with a rifle.
Which makes sense.
Yep, which does make sense, because when your supper each night depends on your skill with a firearm, you get pretty skilled with a firearm.
That is true. Violence can also play a part in that. Ask any drill sergeant.
True.
So where okay. Where do you go from that? You've survived everything that the German military could throw at you, right? And you've survived Hollywood, and you've survived basic suburban American life. Now what?
And the other thing that we shouldn't go without saying about his military career is that it only lasted about a little under 2 years. From the first time he fired a shot in combat till the day of his Medal of Honor action, which was the last time. And pretty much every day that he wasn't on the front line killing Germans by the bushel fucking basket, he was in the hospital with malaria or because he got all shot to shit during his last heroic action. The guy was either in the hospital or on the front lines winning medals for valor. There was no in between. He didn't stop being little and sickly and undersized when he got into combat. He just, on the days that he was able to stand up and hold a rifle, he was in combat. And on the days he wasn't, he was in the hospital. And on the day of his Medal of Honor action, when his combat career ended, when he cemented his legacy as the most decorated combat infantryman in the history of the country, he was 7 months removed from his 20th birthday.
It has a lot of similarities to the Alexander the Great arc.
Sure.
But then he survives to what when did he die? 37?
45.
45. Trying to fly by instruments.
Oh, he was just in a plane going from one business meeting to another, and the pilot shouldn't have been flying in these conditions, and he just plowed the aircraft into the side of a mountain.
Ain't that a bitch?
Ain't that a bitch? I mean, of all the shitty ways for a man like that to die, that one is a real pisser. Right? Because I mean, he should have been alive well into your and my lifetimes, and his legend should have grown and grown and grown, and it would have, and he would have fully deserved it.
So we're looking at a possible future where he ends up playing some of John Wayne's roles, possibly some of Clint Eastwood's roles. Can you imagine the good, the bad, and the ugly with him in it?
Yeah, he would have been in a lot of really prominent pictures with starring alongside really prominent people. I actually just last night I rewatched The Unforgiven, where he plays opposite Burt Lancaster and a young and possibly gorgeous Audrey Hepburn, and you would never know that guy wasn't a professional actor to start out with, that he was a soldier who just happened to transition into acting, and to hold your own like that opposite Burt Lancaster, who was one of the absolute best actors ever. I mean, who can beat Burt Lancaster for the range of his work that he's able to? Burt Lancaster can play a sympathetic hero, or he can play a terrifying dastardly villain just as well. That's how good that guy was. And Audie Murphy was perfectly comfortable and held his own perfectly well on the screen with a guy like that. And Audrey Hepburn too. I mean, God, I know I already said she was impossibly gorgeous, but God damn, she was gorgeous when she was young. Yeah. Jesus,
magnificent.
Like you cannot take your eyes off of her when she's on the screen. That's how gorgeous that young woman was. And that movie, I think was from 1960, 61. So it would have been about 5 years after To Hell and Back. And even in that movie, he was already an established actor by the time they talked him into playing himself on screen. And you would never guess that he just, lucked into his career as an actor. You would never guess that he wasn't born to do it because he was that good at it. It helped, obviously, that he was really good looking and had a strong profile and a good voice, but everything he got, he worked for.
I don't think anybody would argue with that.
This wasn't no charity project by any stretch of the imagination.
No, all of that, every bit of that goes into the type of personality he was. The type A, go get them, not standing around and doing stuff. You know what I mean? Like just constantly at it. That man was on that grind.
Should we read out his list of decorations?
Yeah, do that now. That's
Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 with the V device, 3 Purple Hearts. And remember, they don't give you 1 Purple Heart for each wound. They give you 1 Purple Heart for each occasion on which you were wounded. So some of these woundings, he was wounded in each and every one of his limbs, and that's 1 Purple Heart. Legion of Honor from France, and 3 Croix de Guerre from France, 1 with the Silver Star, 1 with the Palm, and 1 additional one from Belgium. And that was every medal for valor that was available to be awarded by the U.S. Army during his time of service. And there's a famous picture of him in his dress uniform with all of his full-size medals on, and the medals may weigh more than he does. Let's put it that way. We're not really exaggerating when we say that.
I thought that one was at the end of this video, but it was the other video. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible producer.
And even still he looks like just a fresh-faced little boy, because he is. I mean, he's only 20 years old when he's done all this stuff. Not yet 20 years old. The man looks like he's at least 2 years away from having to drag a razor across his face, and he's the greatest hero in the history of the U.S. Armed Forces already.
All right, so are we going to go into the to Hell and Back movie, or do you want to move on to Damsel?
We can go wherever you feel like going, brother. If you want to talk Damsel, we can talk Damsel. We can get back to Audie.
You watched the movie. I watched.
I did because you made me watch it. The things I do for this program.
First time I watched it, I was like, "Well, that's pretty. Well, that's pretty. That's pretty." You know. But when I went back and rewatched it, I noticed some rather odd things about this story that just, well, quite frankly, I don't think they make a whole lot of sense. So we're fixing to throw spoilers on our spoilers and have us a double spoiler breakfast. Are you with me?
Yep. We don't do spoiler alerts, but you just did.
That's as close to a spoiler alert as you're going to get. So we've got this kingdom.
But then how much do you really need a spoiler alert for a movie in which you can fairly predict everything that's going to happen well before it happens?
All right. So we have this magical. Hey, Ava. I'm sorry, my granddaughter just wandered into the room unoccupied. Like, oh, there you are. Get that thing. So we have the classic prince here, right? The lovely prince, the Prince Charming, the one who's come to sweep you off your feet, to rescue the beautiful damsel. No. This guy's a bad guy. He's evil. You see how white he is?
He looks suspiciously Caucasian to me.
Yeah, no, I knew it. I knew it the second I saw him. I was able to deduce that from his complexion. So now that we know he's a bad guy, we know that this isn't your classic princess tale.
She's going to have to escape from her hoop skirt.
Right? It's going to have to happen. This kingdom has entered into a contract with a dragon. Oh no, say it ain't so. And according to this dragon's contract, every generation, they must sacrifice 3 daughters, just the way she did when they came and killed the last of her progeny. So some basic mathematics, that happened a few hundred years ago. So we're dealing with at least, 12 generations or so?
What did I say for the 3-movie mashup? This is Predator meets the Desolation of Smaug meets Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
You're not wrong, man. I mean,
but with a whole overlay of woke girl boss girl power, because of course.
But the kingdom plays the dragon for a fool. And every time they're supposed to sacrifice one of their children, their daughters, supposedly, they just cut themselves, put their blood on her, and then throw her in the hole, and the dragon eats them, and nothing ever comes of them. You know, it can't tell that they're not royal because they smell like royal blood, right?
And for centuries, this arrangement works out just fine.
For centuries, every prince of this kingdom gets married 4 times, 3 in the first year, and then 1 at the year anniversary of the first marriage.
And lots of them are strong, powerful women of color.
Well, I mean, some of them are at least, but I mean, we're talking at least 30 women that have just completely vanished. And ostensibly, these individual women were largely marriages of convenience and power struggles. And so we're already dealing with an overtly corrupt kingdom utilizing overtly corrupt tactics completely above board. There's no mystery what's happening to these women in this kingdom. They know that they are being sacrificed to the freaking dragon in place of their own prince.
And once she gets chucked down into the labyrinthine dragon cave, then we start a video game fetch quest.
Right.
You know, combined with Predator, combined with Lord of the Rings, it's kind of a fun little stew of all that. But they really do build this thing like a video game for the kiddies, because you got to pick up health points over here, you got to find a map over here, you got to find some equipment over here. It's yeah.
The second and third act are full on Final Fantasy quests. They're all the way to the point where there's a puzzle she has to solve in order to supposedly escape, right?
He ain't lying. There is an actual puzzle.
An actual no bullshit. She has to go and put together the final 3 pieces of some apparently failed princess previous that failed to escape, or maybe she did escape. It kind of leaves that up in the air.
And at one point, she's unconscious, and she communes with some strong, powerful women of color who were the previous victims, and they help her. They help her along on the fetch quest.
The fetch quest. There are magical boogs, man. Did you see the magical boogs? They had boogs.
Yes, yes.
If you get burned, right, in a dragon's lair, in a dragon's.
Yeah. That's how you pick up the health points. You have to pick up the magical glowy slugs and put them on your wound, and then you get 500 health points, and you can go finish with the fetch quest.
Right. And so you go and you gather the swords and the shields and the stuff, and you have to build your little fake I'm not over here noise trap so that it goes off in 17 minutes or maybe 30, because how long does it take that bucket to empty with sand? I mean, I get that they're saying she's clever. Oh, and did you notice the very first scene in there? Do you remember what the very first scene was? Wrong button. My bad. The very first scene in there where you see her, she's chopping wood, showing that she's
because that's how you establish a woke girl boss character, is by having her do masculine things, because doing masculine things is the highest expression of womanhood.
Right. So you go from this woman who's ostensibly a princess of some outward hamlet in the middle of nowhere, whose father just happens to own some land. He's
a wood chopping princess. How many wood chopping princesses have you met?
Right. I'm telling you, dude, the more you dig into it, this is an excellent movie as long as you don't stop to think about it. It's real pretty. It's great. It's wonderfully shot. I've got a little something over there I want to throw up right quick. This was this was the first thing that come to mind. Damn it! Stop doing that. What have I got going on wrong over here? Something has happened. Let's do this and then that, and then I have controls. Right. Okay. So we are looking at a 1997 production of Dragonheart. This is the dragon in Dragonheart, right? This thing appears to be about the size of a semi, a small tractor trailer, perhaps, you know. It stays fairly consistent throughout the movie. They take extra pains to give it a significance of weight and gravitas, and to not throw off the scaling, right? Now,
and we're going with the wyvern model of the dragon, where it's got 4 legs, just like a quadruped, and then a couple of bird wings on the back.
Right. So this is our new dragon. And in our first scene that we see it, it appears to be the size of a small industrial center. It looks giant. I mean, when it flies in and tries to snatch up some of those guys, it's absurd that this thing could fly inside of that cave because it's so large, it barely fits in. Its physical mass, not counting its wings, barely fit between the uprights. And then 2 seconds later in the same scene, you come to a position where she lands on the surface and suddenly she's appears to be the size of a large dog.
Yeah. There are a lot of radical scale departures throughout the picture.
So like when you see her out flying, she looks like she's the size of a civic center. But when she lands and comes up to you, she may be the size of like 3 or 4 big horses. But then when you see her a little bit further away, she's suddenly the size of a large semi-trailer. The scale doesn't work. The forced perspective has kind of failed on this one. That's one of my big
dragon. But in the end, the dragon is not really the villain. The dragon is just another victim of the white heteronormative patriarchy.
Exactly. So what we have is this prince tosses her down the hole. The dragon's supposed to eat her, and he's supposed to go recruit. This was the third recent one. So he's going to go marry somebody for real, probably her sister, right? Her little sister, who's only like freaking 9. And that is, I don't even want to go down that freaking road of conversation.
Oh, and I'm pretty sure the girl who played the sister is the same girl who played Alice Karstark in the last season of Game of Thrones. Because obviously they have to have somebody in this thing from Game of Thrones, or else our theme stew soup doesn't get mixed up right.
Right. So during this whole debacle, her dad decides, hold on, I'm not going to lose my baby that way. Or maybe he didn't understand. It never is clear whether he realized that they were going to literally sacrifice her to a dragon, or if he was just trying to run the risk of the curse of the royals, where every single male descendant marries 4 times before they settle down.
You say your wedding vows, and 30 seconds later you get chucked off the bridge to be dragon food.
I totally want to go get that scene where he throws her off and put a nice little yeet. Maybe put a label over him of like cis white.
How about a Wilhelm scream? Could we get a good old fashioned Wilhelm scream up in here?
We could do that. We'll do the yeet, then the Wilhelm scream.
Yep. Yeah, both wouldn't be bad. I'm in favor of both.
And then this chick, who's obviously the most evil creature to have ever walked the face of the earth, and she's in a movie with a dragon. So keep that in mind.
And those masks, I think that's yet another subtle Game of Thrones reference, because they look quite a lot like the masks the Sons of the Harpy wore.
Yeah.
Just saying.
We may have to take some time and do a full breakdown on some Game of Thrones, because we can do that. Okay, so they cut...
Because it is not at all difficult to see what the inspirational source material was for this thing, I don't think.
The aesthetics is completely Game of Thrones. I mean, it's straight out. It is in fact, I believe, designed to immense the member berries of Game of Thrones without hearkening directly to a descendancy from Game of Thrones, which is clever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I like we were talking about backstage. I totally thought at the end they were going to go full Daenerys Targaryen and have her ride out on the back of the dragon, but they managed to stop short of going full Daenerys.
Well, let's discuss this. Her daddy comes in and tries to save her. The dragon kills everybody involved, and then tortures the father, trying to get him to yell out to her to get her to come in. But of course, he's a total freaking Chad, right? He ain't doing it. He screams, tells her to run the frick away. Just get away.
He's Ray Winstone, and he is here for the paycheck, baby.
Damn right. And so he freaking screams, dies, as he will. You know, Disney, it's a movie, and this is happening. So Netflix has really pooped the boat on this one, in my opinion, because at that point, she turns into super girl boss. She immediately, with no actual experiences or growth, or
Oh, I know. But by the middle of the second act, she is Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
it kind of reminds me loosely of the what was that movie? Oh, not Cavern. It's Descent. You remember Descent with the weird inbred monster people? All right, there's a bit of that in here. I also got a couple of flavors from Pandorum. Do you ever see Pandorum?
Don't think so.
Oh my God, that's one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made, and we should sit down and watch it together because it's awesome. I'll ruin that movie. It's great. My point being, these people have been sacrificing poor girls from outside of the country, immigrants. They've been sacrificing immigrants. This is truthiness. This is the way this movie goes. What they're doing, they are literally throwing immigrant princesses to the dragon. Then they basically just annex out whatever land from that place that and they own it then, and they pay taxes to this kingdom, and this is how they're growing, is because they have a dragon. I guess
tossing them right over the border wall.
I guess the unwritten bit of plot element here that's never actually mentioned is that the dragon isn't feeding on this particular kingdom, but instead attacks all of them that are not directly associated with this kingdom, thereby ruining the economics and the ability of all of the surrounding kingdoms to be able to grow and function as normal kingdoms. Instead, they're defending against dragon attacks every 18 months or whatever, right?
And the dragon is only pissed off in the first place because the white heteronormative patriarchal bastards murdered her children centuries ago.
Right. And so they've been lying to this dragon for 1,000 years about the people they've been feeding to her. These were just random people, not freaking royal blood. And that was the demand. And so they breached contract. It takes the princess a while to convince the dragon that that's the case. In fact, she wins by just a random feat. It's absurd. She notices a curved bit of freaking, that's it. And that's all.
And I guess it's only just now occurring to me, but I guess the specialness of royal blood is another bit of a callback to Game of Thrones, because that's a theme that is present there as well. That there's certain kind of magic and spells you can only do if you have a king's blood. So that's why Melisandre puts a leech on Gendry's dick.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta suck evil out. Okay. So ultimately what we end up with is a prequel story, not the actual story itself. Since the hero in this picture doesn't actually experience any growth and doesn't actually learn anything from the experience and only re-verifies their own preconceived notions of entitlement from the story. And now she has a very angry, vengeful dragon. Do you reckon
at the end she comes off looking a lot more like a vengeful, bloodthirsty maniac?
The birds, it was beautiful but evil. Thousands,
which as a hero's journey goes, it's a unique take on it, I suppose.
Right.
But I mean, what can you imagine happening after the end of the picture when she's gained all these awesome Sheena, Queen of the Jungle survival skills, and she's got a pissed off dragon at her disposal, and she's walking into the world looking pissed off and looking for vengeance? I mean, she's gonna go kill some motherfuckers. She doesn't look like she's gonna go make peace and love and harmony. She looks like she wants to go burn some shit down.
Yes, there is no future from this point. This is a perfect case of writing mistakes taking place. You either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. And this is how you become the villain in your own sequel.
And I'm not sure if the filmmakers even realized that, to be honest.
I'm waiting to see if she comes in the sequel and is super girl bossing right across the top of a flaming freaking sky. By the way, the dragon can literally catch the sky on fire. But beyond that, when she comes girl bossing her way across the continent, burning a freaking canoe straight through the middle of every economic system from here to the end, back to her own kingdom, who sold her.
Yep.
No, she's the villain of the next picture. There's no two ways about it. There's no way to write her out of being the villain. However, there might be a redemption arc involved if you can take her into villainhood and have a redemption tale associated with it. But my oppression ain't going to do it.
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise it's just going to be a mass murder spree.
That's what it's going to be either way. But her oppression is over. She has a dragon in her pocket. She is no longer oppressed by any.
And nobody else in the world's got no dragon.
Yep, and she's obviously not afraid to use it.
Yep, because they are both going to go smash the white heteronormative patriarchy. God damn it!
Right. So a vengeful,
pissed off girl boss, pissed off girl dragon. You tell me where that story goes.
Exactly. And they have a little bit of like a weird synergy going on between the offended nature of the dragon and what has happened to her. We're talking 1,000-year-old woman who's over here that's the last of her species and has no purpose to live except for the vengeance of her children against those.
Yeah, there's a lot of thorny moral decisions here that I don't think the filmmakers have fully wrestled with.
Yeah, no, like you said, they set it up like a video game, and it seems to me like they went to a high school cafeteria, sat down at the table, and jotted down ideas from what everybody was saying. And what everybody was saying was, they're playing different video games. And so they went and made an old Fable game out of this movie. I guess they're going to have a video game about it, but I don't see it happening. Because here's the thing. All these other princesses were also super girl bosses. Look, they all lived to make it to carve their names into the
yes, they all contributed to the successful conclusion of the fetch quest.
Right. So they all have to take place. They all have to do their thing. They all have to super girl boss in a row over 1,000 years in order to collate an entire map and more or less timeline of this space. It doesn't actually show the map.
And this white girl has to stand on the shoulders of all these strong, powerful girl bosses of color and be the one that actually prevails, which I'm not going to say it seems racist, but
it does seem a bit suspect there. It might have made a little bit.
I think maybe they didn't think it all the way through. Is all I'm saying.
Do you reckon it was written by AI? I think AI could explain.
I think it very possibly could have been, especially since I've got, you and I have so much recent experience now with AI. We know exactly what AI can churn out, and it seemed, AI could churn out something exactly like this.
Exactly like this. It would be very easy for this to have happened through AI.
Why don't we do a science experiment right now? Pardon me. I'm gonna hit up ChatGPT for a moment. You entertain the people.
I made a thing. Check this out.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Right? I mean, what else are we going to do with this time we have? All right. So how does she leave this particular framework of having a dragon in her pocket and no fear to use it and absolutely hating every single aspect of the powers that be? She is the rebel princess at this point. She has broken the back of the royal family in the kingdom she currently is standing in. And any direct descendants are either going to bow at her feet, or what do you reckon? She's going to marry? She's going to keep the prince? No, he's dead. He gets fucking immolated.
Yeah, she don't need no man for nothing.
Oh wow.
She's like Jasmine from Harmony Unleashed, like that.
Right? I gotta admit, it is pretty. The whole thing. Okay. So there's a couple of things here that don't make sense on their surface. Like for instance, the gooey crap where the worms were. You remember all the glowing worms that heal you when you put them on your wounds? Okay.
Yeah, that's how you get your health points.
That place appears to be downhill from virtually everything else in that area, meaning that it's basically just dragon piss and poop. And that's what the worms are down there living on, right? When the dragon bleeds, it bleeds gold. That's why the whole place is streaked with gold and whatnot. The breath weapon apparently creates something along the form of diamonds wherever it has been like layered over and over and over for years and years and years. That's the big diamond crystal tower that she's trying to climb there at the end to escape, right? It's all wild, dude. It's crazy. Somebody sat down and thought about the metabolics of this dragon in order to pull off the setting that it's in, and yet at the same time did not actually consider what doing all of this means in a moral standpoint. She is literally this is Revenge of the Sith.
Right. All right, you want to hear what I just typed into ChatGPT?
Let's do this thing, bro.
I said, write a script for a movie about a strong, powerful girl boss who defeats the patriarchy and tames a dragon. Here I go. Title, Dragon Queen, Rise of the Matriarch.
Oh, wow.
All right.
No shit, it was written.
I'm going for it, dude. Opening scene. The camera pans over a sprawling medieval kingdom where the oppressive rule of the patriarchy is evident in every aspect of life. Women are confined to traditional roles while men hold all positions of power. Cut to a small village where we meet our protagonist, Arya, a young woman with a fiery spirit and a determination to change the status quo. Despite facing discrimination and ridicule, she refuses to conform to society's expectations. One day, while exploring the forest, Arya stumbles upon a hidden cave. Inside, she discovers a majestic dragon, wounded and trapped. Despite her fear, she approaches the creature and tends to its wounds. Arya, softly, "You're not what they say you are you? You're not a monster." The dragon, initially wary, begins to trust Arya, sensing her kindness and strength of character. A bond forms between them, and Arya resolves to free the dragon from its captivity. As Arya and the dragon grow closer, rumors of her unusual friendship spread throughout the kingdom. The patriarchy, threatened by her defiance, seeks to suppress her and maintain their grip on power. Undeterred, Arya rallies other women in the village, empowering them to challenge the oppressive system. Together, they form a resistance movement, fighting for equality and justice. Meanwhile, the dragon, now healed and restored to full strength, becomes Arya's loyal companion and protector. With its help, she embarks on a quest to confront the leaders of the patriarchy and end their tyranny once and for all. The climax of the film sees Arya leading her army of women into battle against the forces of oppression. With the dragon by her side, she inspires courage and determination in her allies, proving that true strength comes from within. In a thrilling showdown, Arya faces off against the patriarchal leaders, using her wit and resourcefulness to outsmart them at every turn. With the support of her friends and the power of the dragon, she emerges victorious, ushering in a new era of equality and freedom. In the aftermath of the battle, Arya is hailed as a hero and a symbol of hope for women everywhere. With the patriarchy defeated, she vows to continue fighting for a better world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. The film ends with Arya and the dragon soaring through the skies, united in their quest for justice and equality as the sun sets on the horizon. End credits roll, accompanied by an empowering anthem celebrating the triumph of the human spirit over oppression. The end.
I think it was written by AI. I think there's going to be a 3-movie arc, and in the next part, you're going to find out how very evil all the kingdoms really are. And in the final arc, she's going to save everybody with her powerful dragon that finally dies of, I don't know, friendship or something.
Because yes, you absolutely could take that script outline that AI robot just wrote and build this exact movie around it. 100%.
Yep. Oh, wow. Looks like AI knows the plan. Misguide young women with dreams of power and control.
Oh, it's like they knew we were coming.
Right? It's amazing. All right. So, what was the third topic we were covering tonight? Do we remember?
I don't remember, but we probably would be remiss if I didn't read out Audie Murphy's Medal of Honor citation, since we do like Medal of Honor citations around here.
Let's do that thing. Bam. Do the thing.
Second Lieutenant Murphy commanded Company B, which was attacked by 6 tanks and waves of infantry. Second Lieutenant Murphy ordered his men to withdraw to prepared positions in a woods while he remained forward at his command post and continued to give fire directions to the artillery by telephone. Behind him, to his right, one of our tank destroyers received a direct hit and began to burn. Its crew withdrew to the woods. Second Lieutenant Murphy continued to direct artillery fire, which killed large numbers of the advancing enemy infantry. With the enemy tanks abreast of his position, Second Lieutenant Murphy climbed on the burning tank destroyer, which was in danger of blowing up at any moment, and employed its 50 caliber machine gun against the enemy. He was alone and exposed to German fire from 3 sides, but his deadly fire killed dozens of Germans and caused their infantry attack to waver. The enemy tanks, losing infantry support, began to fall back. For an hour, the Germans tried every available weapon to eliminate Second Lieutenant Murphy, but he continued to hold his position and wiped out a squad which was trying to creep up unnoticed on his right flank. Germans reached as close as 10 yards. Only to be mowed down by his fire. He received a leg wound, but ignored it and continued the single-handed fight until his ammunition was exhausted. He then made his way to his company, refused medical attention, and organized the company in a counterattack which forced the Germans to withdraw. His directing of artillery fire wiped out many of the enemy. He killed or wounded about 50. Second Lieutenant Murphy's indomitable courage and his refusal to give an inch of ground saved his company from possible encirclement and destruction and enabled it to hold the woods, which had been the enemy's objective. End quote. What were you doing when you were 19 and a half?
Masturbating.
Yep.
I mean, probably. I know chances are. Wow. Dude. Such a Chad, though. Like, really.
Oh, I know. A 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing pound robo Chad.
All right, so Fannie Willis is a thing. You been following any of that?
Wasn't she in the news roundup?
Yeah, we covered it. You covered a bit of it. All right, so
I'm always up for some Fannie.
Right, she yeah, she's going to be brought up on charges allegedly. There's a whole bunch going on there, but she was given the opportunity to resign rather than being removed, and as I understand it, she took the deal.
I can't believe that idiot judge said she could stay on the case if she just fired her Mr. Wade.
But if he didn't, she was going to call him a racist. She said so.
Exactly.
We can't have that.
Look at how many bad things happen in our country just because cucktastic idiots are afraid of being called racists. I'm so tired of that.
I'm so anti everything. But yeah, so
that reminds me. Sorry, go ahead.
She gets to save face and walk away. He gets to keep the money, as far as I've been able to determine. He ain't
gonna have to give no money back. Yeah, you're damn right.
Which makes him the highest paid dick slinger I've ever heard of in my life.
Yep. And that's all this was. She wanted to sleep with this dude. He didn't want to sleep with her. So she said, well, if I give you a whole shitload of money, will you have sex with me? And he said, okay.
Basically, as far as I've been able to determine. And then they went about pretending to do business.
Because I'm sorry, there is no way that dude has sex with that chick unless there's something else in it for him. He ain't hitting that just for the sex. There's no way in hell that's happening.
All right, yeah, no, you got him there. I'm pretty sure. But there's a bit of other news in that general ballywick as well. 6 charges were dropped from Trump this week. Doesn't seem to be a big help overall, but it is at least a start. And I mean,
well, it speaks to the ridiculousness of the entire case in general.
It kind of does. I mean, this whole thing is being perpetrated largely by an individual who simply has Trump derangement syndrome. What do you call it?
Trump psychosis complex.
Right.
TPS.
Right.
TPC, I mean. TPC, yeah.
It's madness. It's absolute madness. I mean,
because I think for some people it actually goes so far that Trump derangement syndrome isn't even a sufficient term yet. There has to be something beyond that. For people who think that for people who are fully convinced that Donald Trump is the wellspring of all moral evil in the universe.
Convinced by CNN. And also, Don Lemon, he did an interview.
Oh God, Don! I should have put him in the roundup. Jesus Christ! Yeah. Oh God, Don Lemon, man.
So
yeah. Read out the list of demands he sent to Elon.
Oh man, it was what was it? He wanted a Cybertruck and what was it, $33 million or something like that. Or is it
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Cool. So like he sits down and basically asks why Elon Musk is such an asshole. That's what he did a hit piece on Elon's own freaking platform.
I know he opens what was the first question? He prefaces his first question by saying hate speech is up on the platform. And Elon's like, pump the brakes, dude. Hold on a second, because you're dealing in a lot of undefined terms here. Because, as we know, leftists love nothing more than undefined terms. You know, first tell me what the hell hate speech is, and then tell me your source for how it's up on my platform, and then maybe we can get into the rest of the question.
If you go to the Google definition of hate speech, every single individual on earth except for a straight white man can be the victim of hate speech. The definition precludes a straight white
hate
man.
Speech is anything they say is hate speech.
Yeah, basically, if I don't like it, you get convicted. $8 million.
Shall I read from this New York Post article?
Sure. Have it.
Don Lemon demanded the sun, the moon, and the stars from the SpaceX boss this week before being unceremoniously dumped. The Post has learned the ex-CNN anchor sent over an astronomical wish list to Elon Musk during contract talks to host a show on the billionaire's social media platform X, including a free Tesla Cybertruck, a $5 million upfront payment on top of an $8 million salary, an equity stake in the company, and the right to approve any changes in X policy as it relates to news content, according to a document reviewed by the Post. Lemon, who was expected to air an interview with Musk for next week's debut episode on X, had also demanded a private jet flight to Las Vegas, a suite for himself and his fiancée, and that the company pay for their day drinking and massages. A source with knowledge of the situation said. That's all he wanted. You know,
right?
No big deal, right? Pay for my massage. That's ballsy, dude.
But what on God's green earth gave Don Lemon the idea that he could make demands for being on the platform?
I know. What is going on in that man's head? Seriously, who the hell does Don Lemon think he is?
I'll tell you what.
You are a disgraced former CNN fake news performance artist. You are so terrible, even fucking CNN fired your ass. And you're gonna make a series of lavish demands now? Dude, pull your head out.
This is the type of man who'd fart in a bathtub, turn around and bite the bubbles.
Yeah, I think you're probably not far off.
I am utterly flummoxed by the what's the plot here? What's the end game on this one? What's the payout? I punked Elon Musk.
I don't know. Did he actually think when he sent over that list that there was going to be any reaction except uproarious laughter at his self-delusion and hubris? Because that is a hell of a lot of hubris, dude. Again, you are Don Lemon. You are one of the world's most notorious fake news performance artists.
Right? Andy Pickle gets it. He says, "Who did the Don Lemon think he is, Super Mayor?"
Oh, boom, baby!
We got a participation trophy.
Super Mayor had a fun week this week too. I've been watching some of. I've been watching actual Justice Warriors coverage of Super Mayor. That's some pretty wholesome stuff.
It is. It's good stuff. She, the other person I've been doing a little bit of work with is Midlife Bro Logic, and Super Mayor is his hero. He has decided she is the American dream. She went from smashing car windows and stealing people's pocketbooks to being the super mayor of a small town in just a matter of a few years.
And I am at a loss how a person that ridiculous wins an election, except by being black and having a vagina. Much like Fannie Willis.
I'm surprised she's not gay. It actually blows my mind. It seems so out of place. You would expect, y'all
should be ashamed of yourself.
Be ashamed of yourself.
Y'all black. Y'all black. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Strike. Because you do that a little too well. Wait, do some talking in your black narrator voice that I said you should just permanently talk like that for the rest of your freaking life.
You mean Black George Washington voice? Hello, honky motherfuckers. This is Black George Washington coming at you from Black Mount Vernon.
Can anyone out there draw anything like what I just heard? Because we are totally going to do a cartoon. The very first artist I find. I'm talking stick figures if I have to. Black George Washington and Alex Jones on an AI adventure weekly.
Oh, and if the AI robots take over the world, Black George Washington is going to be at the head of that army.
That's terrifying. That is so scary, bro. Like, stop it. It's just like, wow. Really?
Well, and I heard this week that some other AI company got in trouble for the same thing that Google Gemini got in trouble for, because it was an image generator that refused to make images of white people.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Like, after a public relations fiasco that Google just underwent, you didn't go back and tweak your code a little bit? Like, you didn't think that same thing was going to happen to you? What goes on in these wokesters' heads, I wonder? And moreover, how is the world made a better place if we pretend everybody in history was black? Like, how is that a good thing?
I don't know, man, but that Polynesian Pope was kind of cute.
Oh, yeah, that Pakistani woman Pope. I like that.
Yeah. Pakistani Pope, the Pakistani female Pope. She was kind of cute in a Mother Teresa kind of way. Although, have you noticed all of that AI art has a weird, almost evil overtone to it? Like, it always looks a little off. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, there is a, I know what you're talking about. There is a relentless sense of sameness that reminds me of the school of art they used to call Soviet realism. You remember?
Have you seen the new AI robot text to speech thing they did?
Mm-mm.
All right, check this out.
Center of the table, a drying rack. I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great.
How did
That
they
is
teach it to do croaky voice?
That is apparently, I've done a little bit of digging around behind this. I haven't really found a whole lot. There's mostly rumor, but the rumor is when they were doing the voice, the AI voices, it chose that particular voice. But there is something that happens here. The damn thing stutters organically, and it made my testicles crawl up inside of my abdomen when it happens.
Wow.
There is supposedly no human interaction between the vocalization of the man on screen and the robot's reactions. This is text. This is AI understanding to text, to speech, to response.
Can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you.
Did you hear it?
It's so fucking creepy.
Or was it just so natural you missed it?
Item I could provide you with. The apple because it's the only edible item I could provide.
The little
That little
Yep.
that is the most organic thing I've seen from this robot. That little it's AI has no use for that.
Nope.
The only functionality it has is to lull you into a false sense of
Yeah.
security.
It's a thing we endeavor not to do as human beings when we're speaking, which makes it
So
creepier.
It burnt computational power in order to try to lull you, in order to make you believe a little more so that it's a little more human.
Yep. And that's terrifying.
It's plotting.
Provide you with from the table.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
Of course.
I mean, does anybody else just get terrified when they see that?
I hope so, because I sure do. And I tend to be on the non-reactionary side of the whole AI question. As far as people who are fully convinced that AI is going to kill us all and take over the world in the next 5 minutes.
I'm not convinced it hasn't already done it. Look at it this way. YouTube just fired, like, what was it? 12,000 employees, 4,000 employees or something a few months ago.
Did they?
Yeah. So who do you reckon's doing the reviews of the videos now?
Well, and I've noticed an uptick recently, as I'm sure you have, as I'm sure many people in the audience have, of you click on a video and you can tell the voiceover is AI generated.
Uh-huh.
I've been noticing a hell of a lot more of that. Like even when I'm just watching history videos, the type of stuff that I normally watch, and it's getting more and more difficult to tell. You used to be able to tell right off the bat in the first 5 seconds that it was an AI generated voice you were listening to.
Mhm.
Now it might take a minute or two. And
Or 3. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess we can call that progress if we want to, depending on how terrifying we find that whole prospect. I don't know what's wrong with people just doing their own voiceovers, but
I
who
mean,
the hell am I?
I guess I could tell you this much. If I wanted an Alex Jones rendition of, say, I don't know, King Lear, I would have to sit here and do it, and it would shred my freaking vocal cords, but I could do it. So would it be wrong for me to do it AI generated?
I don't know, but I have to pull up some King Lear quotes right now so I can do them in an Alex Jones voice.
Okay. I'm gonna let this play. Finish it up.
All right. So, how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner.
Why are we stuttering?
Yeah,
It
why
took-
are we stuttering, AI robot?
It takes more computational capability to produce the imitation of a stutter than it does to actually accomplish the task at hand.
God, I'm going to blow out my throat if I try this, but I'm going to try it anyway.
The trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
What's the
All right, are we
point?
ready?
All right, let's do this.
This is the excellent foppery of the world. That we are sick and forging off on the surface of our own behavior. We make guilty of our disasters the sun, the moon, and the stars, as if we were villains on necessity, fools by heavenly compulsion, knaves, thieves, and treachers by spherical predominance, drunkards, liars, and adulterers by an enforced obedience of planetary influence, and all that we are evil in by a divine thrusting on, an admirable evasion of whoremaster man to lay his goatish disposition on the charge of a star. My father compounded with my mother under the dragon's tail, and my nativity was under Ursa Major, so that it follows I am rough and lecherous. I should have been what that I am, had the maidenliest star in the firmament twinkled on my bastardizing, and they're turning the fucking frogs gay.
That's pretty good. That's not bad. I prefer more of a Robert Service type of approach because it's more like this. The Northern Lights have seen strange sights.
I'm gonna pay for that tomorrow too.
Oh, I got a challenge for you. I got something I want you to do. I want you to do this for me. I want you to write a satire song based off of Fannie Willis, based around the tune from Angie. 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 You took all our taxing road.
Angie.
There's your first 1 million view video right there, bro.
I actually think I did think of my next song idea today. Bryan Adams, Summer of '69. I can change that to Summer of '89 and make it about Hunter Biden real fucking easy. And I think I can do a credit. And I think I can do a pretty credible Bryan Adams vocal.
I have a screaming child in the background. I'm going to mute up for a minute. Good luck. You have like, I don't know, 8 minutes left or so. So, what do you take from the night? We have AI overlords incoming. We have terrible movies. Do you reckon this is the end of all the bad movies? You were saying so before the show.
I think movies like this movie are going to be seen by future observers as a very peculiar artifact of a very specific moment in film history, which is going to be the end stage of the woke Hollywood period, because after all the disasters of 2022 and 2023, where every woke dog shit movie is now failing miserably and losing hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars. The only types the only types of movies of this ilk that you're going to see coming out from now on are ones that got greenlit a few years ago when it was still fashionable to make movies like this, when they still, for some unknown reason, managed to make money. But movies like this are not getting greenlit anymore because, you know, there's even the affinity with woke leftism is not strong enough that you're willing to burn down an entire industry. And that's pretty much what's going to happen if they continue down the road of woke girl boss bullshit horseshit movies as they have been. So this is going to be the last of a dying breed. This is going to be like when they were still making disco movies in 1982. That's the way that future film historians are going to view this kind of movie coming out during this period in history.
Is this going to be looked at like the blaxploitation era of BLM?
That's a
Because
good call. Yeah.
This is intersectional feminism, but it's very similar to like the mid 70s or so, early 80s. You started having these black filmmakers, basically a couple of, who was it? The dude who did Dolomite, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, he stole the camera that he made Dolomite with. He went and rented it and then never took it back until he was done making movies. They showed up, demanded it, and he let them have it, or what was left of it. By then,
that's almost as fun as the story of Kevin Smith making Clerks.
What's up, Cynthia? Welcome in, girl. Yeah, no, I mean, that's basically the same thing Kevin Smith did. I mean, this has an ancient, and when it comes to art, talk about a woke piece of fucking trash right there, dude. Kevin Smith, I have a distinct bone to pick with that man. He had a distinct dislike for Masters of the Universe. He did He did not like He-Man. He has been quoted, he has been seen on film stating his dislike for the cartoon, for the property, for the license. And he's the individual they hand that particular franchise to fry. Dude, I've never seen it. I have not watched but about the first 30 seconds of it. It was.
Me too. And I'm a guy who 20 years ago, I was a pretty big Kevin Smith fan. I
love Kevin Smith, dude. Jay and
I used to regularly go to his film festivals and stuff, but to see him prostrating himself before the altar of woke girl boss fucking dog shit is an incredibly disappointing thing, and I will never forgive him for it. And he has lost all the respect that he once ever enjoyed, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. I went to the 2004, 2002 Dragon Con because Kevin Smith was going to be there. And I never did run across him or find him anywhere up there, but that was the primary reason why I went. I ended up getting beat up by Gwar.
I chatted with him briefly a couple times, him and Muse. My sister-in-law was totally in love with Jason Mewes, so she got to shake hands with him and couldn't get over it for at least 3 days afterward.
I like
it's
harsh.
That was up in LA around 2005 or 6, you know, when he was doing that would have been a few years after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I used to be, what do they call it? A member of the Viewist universe. I used to be one of those guys, for sure. He used to have a lot of credibility in my book, and he pissed it all away just the last few years.
Shit, right on top of absolutely everyone under him. You know, you've heard the idea of people pulling up the ladder behind him.
Yep, absolutely, yes. That is a outstanding allegory.
He just has no shits to give about what anyone except for the moneymakers think. That's it.
Yep.
Being
Yeah, and I'm gonna pray at any altar. I'm gonna say whatever words I need to say, and just keep the Benjamins rolling in. And he's the last guy who ever should have gone that route, and it's so very disappointing.
It is, but I mean, he pretty much had his creative wide shot with Clerks. Nothing he did after that was as poignant as Clerks was. I mean,
I will pick a bone with you there, because Dogma is the best movie he ever made, I think, and still one of my favorite pictures.
It's the best movie, but it was also the most well financed. When it comes to what was done with the money that he had, Clerks is an absolute masterpiece. There are very few things you can point at as being a problem that can't be explained by, well, he was broke.
Yeah, you couldn't make a better picture for $28,000. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. So when you're looking at Dogma and comparing it to Clerks, I kind of like apples to ancient potatoes from a Mayan grave. You get what I'm saying?
Swiss Miss. I don't know that I've ever seen Clerks 3. Oh wait, I have seen Clerks 3. Have I? Which one is Clerks 3? Which one is the one with Rosario Dawson? Is that Clerks 2?
I thought.
I think there's another Jay and Silent Bob movie I haven't even seen.
You might be right.
I think my kids told me about it, and I never even bothered watching it.
You know what you got to do, right?
Am I talking us out? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius, as you do very dutifully every Sunday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We sure do appreciate having you here. And everything you do on behalf of both of our channels, be sure to fucking like and subscribe and all that other stuff you're supposed to do. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow and a fantastic week, and we will see you next time. If we don't see you before then, do not comply. Get off my lawn.
And when you get off that man's lawn, make sure you call an Uber, because it's St. Patty's Day and I don't want nobody getting hurt on the way home. Call an Uber, get your buddy to drop you off, take the bus. Just don't drive drunk. There's no point in it. It will save nothing.
Give me the money. Give me the money.